I'm live. I have my cup of tea. It is Wednesday morning, July the 12th, 2023. And I'm reading out of Life as Carola. It's the life of Joan Grant. She wrote her previous memories of her lives before this one. Well, she died in 1989. She might be back. This is her life as Carola. It's a place 500 years ago. Carola was born 1510. She was the illegitimate daughter of Lord Griffin, and she was banished from the castle with her mother as a little child, sent out on the streets. Her mother was killed. She travelled with a troubadour group, a jester, Petruchio, who unfortunately dies as well, and she has gone into a cloister. She is now at chapter 17, or she's with the White Sisters, something, Convent of the White Sisters. This is the second part, I think, the third part of chapter 17, and it's entitled The Old Abbess, the leader of this convent. When I was summoned before the abbess, she said, "Have 2 days locked in your cell without food taught you that it is unwise to insult those who have been put in authority over you? I'm sorry that you made it necessary for me to order this punishment." I didn't mind. I'm used to being hungry, and they forgot to take away my water pitcher. I thought she would be angry, but she took no notice of my defiance. "Why did you call her a fool? A pitiable fool. Come, my child, do not be afraid to tell me." I nearly lied to her. I was so afraid that she would not understand, and I knew that if I saw the same bewilderment in her eyes as I had seen in the nuns, it would have always been a barrier between us. But I took courage from the compassion which surrounded her. It is so difficult to explain to anyone how I know things. I suddenly find that new knowledge has become a part of me, as though I had had over my eyes a veil which had been taken away, and I could see things which had been obscure to me before. When you first told me that the sick came here to be healed, I thought it was only with salves and ointments. Then I realized that such things are only the outward form of greater necessity. I saw life as a stream flowing down from the Most High, and I knew that all living things are only a channel for this same life. I knew that when I sleep, my body refreshes itself from these streams, and that weariness comes only when the body thirsts for them. It seems I saw a vision of a great lake of sweet water, and to it came pilgrims who drank and were refreshed. Amongst them were those who carried a water jar on their shoulders. They filled the jar in the lake and carried it back to others who could not reach to the source. They held the water cupped in their hands to the lips of those who thirsted, and with it they cleansed their wounds and they were healed. Then in a dream I saw into a narrow room where a woman lay on a bed and a man stood beside her. Beyond the bed, mourners were kneeling, for they thought she was dying. I saw the man stretch out his hands towards the woman, and down upon his head there shone a ray of light, a light of fiery particles like drops of bright water. I saw it flow down through his head, and from his hands and his forehead it flowed out upon the woman. I saw the shadow pass from her sunken lids, and warmth returned to her skin. And when the mourners saw this thing, they thought it is a miracle, and they knelt before him and would have kissed his feet. But he raised them up, saying, "I am not your master, nor am I one of his pupils. I am one whom a pupil of his pupil trained to follow after him. Remember, it is to the source of the stream that you should look in gratitude, and not to the channel who carries the water to the cistern in your garden." The abbess paused before she answered. "It is true, my child, that it is written how Jesus not only healed the sick and cleansed lepers, but taught others that they should do these things. I thought that was what you were going to teach me here, that you were only waiting for me to show some special virtue before you considered me worthy. And we looked you up because you dared to tell us but we had forgotten our Master's words. I thought I had done so much, but we have forgotten how to follow our teacher. We pray for his intercession, we wait for his miracles, but we do not remember how to perform them to his glory. I'm beginning to remember how to remember. Couldn't you find which one of the novices and nuns dreamed strongly? Then we should know which one of them had undergone priestly training in the past. And though they have been born into forgetfulness, they could become lively with memory, the quick instead of the dead. You follow a master whom you know as Jesus. His truth is the same truth that illuminated earth, has illuminated earth since its creation. Before I came here, I heard that in a country to the north there was a man who is spreading a new teaching, for which he too claims Jesus as the authority. In papal lands, those who listen to him risk martyrdom for their faith. Why do men destroy each other in the name of the Lord of compassion? Why can't they realize that all who speak of truth speak in his voice? I lived long before he was born as Jesus, but in my land his teaching was alive, and his laws were the laws of the people. Then men did not fear death, for they knew it to be as familiar as sleep. Then the sick were healed, not only with salves, but with life, and the parched were given water from the fountain of your truth, and went singing on to their journey. You seem so sure. How can you be so sure? Because I can remember. How do I know that Lucia took the pox? Because I can remember it. It is the same memory, only longer. But the rest of us have no memory, so what use is the past to us? If, when I entered the convent, I had forgotten my days as a strolling player, those days would still have played their part in shaping the real I. All of us remember yesterday when we wake in the morning, but only a few of us can remember the yesterdays when we were born again, for the way of a true priest is slow and difficult and perilous. To me you may talk together, we may dream that our convent walls enclose a temple such as you tell me of, but it must remain a dream. Are you afraid of my hearsay? I have no knowledge of the past, and I can only believe in the future. Yet I know that, though you follow a different teaching, you are no heretic. A strange dilemma when the abbess must confess her ignorance to a novice. You must think that I, too, am a pitiable fool. I think you are wise and beautiful and good. I love you, and I honor you for your charity towards me, and because there is that within you which is shining. Why am I never afraid to talk to you? Why are you so different from the others? I'm a very old woman, but I've never forgotten what it is like to be young. It is not only that, there is so much more. A nun's life before she took her vows is kept secret, so I cannot tell you who I was when I lived in the world, but I will tell you something of my story. She signed to me to draw my stool close to her chair. I was 35 when I came here, and I came because there was nothing more I could hope for from the world. It is more than 40 years since I was outside the gates, and yet I think I'm still remembered. At first it was difficult to free myself from pride. The others were afraid of me when I came here, and they whispered that my dowry could have ransomed a reigning prince. They thought I had come here as a penance, and they would not believe I had come to learn how to do good instead of evil. The order was much stricter then than it has been since it came under my rule. The nuns used to scourge themselves to their penances, or they fasted until they were near death. For a time I thought this was the way to attain to God. I wore a leather belt studded with spikes next to my skirt. I used to stitch nettles into my shift and sleep on a pillow filled with thistles. Whenever I remembered the indulgences I had permitted my flesh, I took pleasure in tormenting it. I was proud, though I pretended to myself that this very pride was humility, to see how soon the nuns respected me for this self-hatred, which they thought to be the outward manifestation of true piety. The scourge was sweet to me. and I gloried in my power to bear fleshly torments. I drove iron nails into the palms of my hands and into my feet, as though I were able to wear the crown of thorns. When the old abbess died, they appointed me her successor, perhaps because they honored me, perhaps because our order was poor and they knew I should be able to increase their lands. I looked into my heart and found that I was barren of the peace I had come here to find. I have not told you why I became a nun. I was born with all the worldly things that inspire envy, power, beauty, riches. I valued them, for I had no standard by which I could judge their worth. Then God took away the only thing I loved. He left me the rest, yet he left me nothing. No one, save God, knew how my heart had shriveled inside me, that I was already in hell, though I still walked and breathed. I knew that there were only two ways open to me. I must find peace somewhere, a peace such as I'd never seen in the world, or else try to forget the bitterness that was corroding me by becoming blinded with wealth, with power, with cruelty. I turned to religion, but I had always gone through the outward observances of the church for expedience, and it brought me no ease. I still believed that death, corruption, dust was the end of all men. I was like a man starving in a forest. He sees berries growing on a tree. They may be poison, so for a time he dares not eat them, and only when he knows he must die of hunger does he pluck them in despair. I was such a one when I entered a convent. I was not radiant with faith, nor confident of God's beneficence, but I had a slender thread of hope that I might learn how to reach my heart again, if it were true that my heart waited beyond death, and had not been buried forever in a tomb. For a time I even increased our strict observances. Then I began to think of the things I had left undone in the world, of the sick I had not helped, and of the poor that my foreriders had knocked aside to make way for me. If I had flung a coin to a beggar, it was only as a gesture. When I ordered a physician to be summoned for a servant's child, it was not from compassion, but because it disturbed me to know that someone was dying in my palace, disturbed me as it would have done if I had known there was a dead mouse under the damask of my bed. These memories of what I had done and left undone came between me and my prayers, between me and my God. I realized that it is not enough to approach God as a suppliant or a worshipper. One must serve him through serving his other children. I resolved that I should teach those who came under my care that there were other ways than prayers by which they must know themselves to be servants of the Most High. Instead of causing pain to our own bodies, we should heal the bodies of others. Instead of striving after our own salvation, we should seek to show the way of it to others. I forbade flagellation and all such practices. I said that though austerity was rightful for us, it was an indulgence to destroy our usefulness by penitential fasts. Through the influence of my kinsmen, the writings of the greatest physicians were sent to me. I enclosed more land, planted orchards and gardens of medicinal plants. When I first ordered the gates of the outer courtyard to be opened twice every week, so that the poor could come to us for succor, some of the nuns were afraid that God would send a pestilence to the convent as a punishment for our presumption. But in time they saw that it is better to bring comfort to lepers and give food to the hungry than it is to fear for one's own soul. Are you a witch or something of a saint, my child? How have you unlocked the secrets which have been shut away in my heart since long before you were born? Because there's no need for secrets between us. We have known each other since a long time. I have given 40 years of my life for the slender hope of immortality. Yet you, my little heretic, have suddenly made me sure that these 40 years have not been paid in vain. If he had not died, you might have been my granddaughter. I knelt beside her and took her hand. He will be there waiting for you. You're going to die very soon. You won't have to be old much longer. You may think I'm mad to know about these things. I don't know how I know. She covered my hand with her own. You talk of my death as though you were promising me a great inheritance. I am. He who loves you is in heaven with Petruchio. You are fortunate to be so much older than I am, for very soon you will be with the one you love. Then not only when you are asleep, but all the time you will be young and beautiful as you once were. One day he will say to you, my love, you need no longer leave me at the summons of the convent bell, and you will be so very happy. The nuns will gather in the chapel to wait for you, and after a time they will grow alarmed. One of them will come to this room to look for you, and she will find that only your body is here. They will light candles about your bier, and they will weep as they pray, for they think that death is a solemn thing. But I shall try to rejoice that you are free, and forget to sorrow, because you are not here anymore. So when I heard the bell tolling for the dead, I knew for whom it lamented. I think I met, it's a short chapter, chapter 18, Green Blood. The new abbess was of the flesh of fanatics, gaunt, thin-lipped. The sharp bones of the cheek and jaw seemed to thrust forward against the sallow skin. Hatred had been sown between us and our only meeting. She had never been in charge of the novices, but once she had taken the place of our usual nun, who was ill for 3 days. I put a spray of hawthorn into my water pitcher, because I found that to look at flowers as I was going to sleep helped me to leave my body smoothly. It seemed that I had done this in the past when I had been a girl with a lotus. When this woman saw it, she had taken the branch between her thin, cruel hands, breaking the stem, crushing the white petals savagely, as though she delighted in their destruction. When I had tried to stop her, she had ordered me a day's fast, and has told me that if again I took flowers into my cell, I should be much more severely punished. A few days after she assumed office, I went to the cloister garden with a message for Sister Ignatia. When I saw what she was doing, I thought for a moment that she must be possessed. She was tearing down a vine from the cloister wall, and round her uprooted shrubs were already wilting in the heat. Then I saw that tears were trickling down her face. There was a smear of sap on her hand. She tried to rub it off with the sleeve of her habit. There was horror in her eyes as she saw the green stain. She might have been a murderess trying to cleanse herself of reluctant blood. I ran along the path to her. Sister Ignatia, what are you doing? She stared at me, dully, uncomprehendingly. Destroying what it has taken me 20 years to build. Their blood is on my hands, green blood. But why? What has happened? I don't understand. The new abbess has decreed that flowers are a vanity of the flesh. There are to be no flowers in our enclosure, no beauty, nothing anymore. Don't listen to her. She is wicked, cruel, evil. We will all refuse to obey her. I'm not afraid of her. None of us must be afraid of her. We cannot rebel. It must be God's will that he has placed her in authority over us. But my obedience is difficult, for her righteousness seems blasphemy. It is blasphemy. It is right that we should rebel. Hush, my child, you and I must obey without questioning the authority. We should question it. That is what authority is for, to be questioned, and always to be able to give the true answer. If it can't, it is no longer an authority which should be obeyed. It's not for women to fight crusades, and yet I have fought to protect my little green children. The snails were armoured warriors who rode against them. The massed heathen tribes poured from the anthill. Wireworms ran siege tunnels among their roots, and the black rust tried to poison them with its counsel of despair. I fought so hard against these enemies, but I am too old to fight them against so powerful an adversary. She picked up a broken rose bush. She might have been a mother picking up a child that has fallen and hurt itself. See how strong he is, like a little tree. I remember him when he was only a shoot. I was the midwife to his mother, for I cut him from her side. How eagerly I awaited his first bud. He was so shy to unfold it, and I tried not to be impatient. Would it be red or white? It was white. Even the doves were ivory beside it. Every year I have counted the increase of his buds. He has never been so beautiful as he would have been this year. There would have been 205 roses. Surely even the angels would have paused in their flight to look at them. She tried to smile through her tears. Forgive me, my child. I should be stronger in my faith. Perhaps this grief has been sent to punish me for being over fond of the earth. Even in my prayers I used to remind God which of my plants was sick, which of them was so beautiful that even he must come to see it. I thought he would understand, but I've made him angry. I thought of him as the great gardener who looks after us when we are little and then teaches us to grow strong. Even the tribulations he sends us seem like the winter snow which brings the spring blossoming to the alpine meadows. He is like that. I'm sure he hates the new abbess as much as I hate her. She is cruel and narrow and ungodly. Quiet, quiet, somebody will hear you, and you will be whipped for blasphemy. Forgive me for disturbing you with my frailties. Now go, my child, and leave me. I must ask him who made them how to tell my little green children why their foster mother has become their destroyer. The next chapter is called The Apricot, and I shall read it later.